The Dolby Theater fell silent as Sophia Taylor glided across the stage to accept her Academy Award, her emerald gown catching the light with each graceful step. At 38, she embodied Hollywood's ideal: talented, intelligent, and possessing a beauty that had only matured with time. Standing in the wings, watching with unmistakable pride, was her husband of 10 years, James Bennett, the powerhouse producer who had championed her breakthrough role in Midnight Echo. "I want to thank the Academy, of course," Sophia began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "And most importantly, my husband, James, my North Star, my biggest champion, the man who saw something in me when I was a nobody from Pasadena with nothing but community theater credits." The camera cut to James, 45, distinguished in his Tom Ford tuxedo, beaming with what appeared to be unfiltered adoration. What the millions of viewers watching the Oscars broadcast didn't see was how perfectly choreographed this moment had been. The Hollywood Reporter would later call them the golden couple of cinema, a partnership that seemed to elevate both. Her raw talent combined with his industry acumen created box office magic and critical acclaim in equal measure. 3 years earlier at the Chateau Marmont, industry insider Rebecca Chen had observed them at a pre-Emmy party. "They complete each other's sentences," she told her editor later that night. Sophia brings an artistic integrity to James's commercial instincts, and he gives her performances the platform they deserve. In this town of facade marriages, there seems remarkably authentic. Their love story had become Hollywood legend. They met when Sophia auditioned for Midnight Echo, a psychological thriller that James was producing after several successful but formulaic action films. "I was looking for something different for the lead," James recounted during a panel at the Tribeca Film Festival. "Every actress who came in played the trauma, the victimhood. Then Sophia walked in 5 minutes late, apologizing profusely, and she played the character's strength, her resilience. I was transfixed." Their professional collaboration quickly evolved into romance. Late-night script discussions in his Hancock Park bungalow led to dawn walks along Venice Beach. 3 months after filming wrapped, James proposed at Chateau Marmont, in the same garden suite where they'd had their first unofficial date, discussing character motivations over room service. "What makes you such a powerful actress is that same quality that made me fall in love with you," James told her that night, the 3-carat emerald-cut diamond glinting in its velvet box. "You see truth where others see surfaces." Their wedding at James's 10-acre Napa Valley estate was intimate by Hollywood standards, only 150 guests. Sophia wore Alexander McQueen, James wore his grandfather's restored pocket watch, and their vows promised partnership in all things. Variety called it the union of artistic integrity and industry power, a rare Hollywood marriage founded on mutual respect and collaborative vision rather than publicity opportunities. The years that followed brought 4 critically acclaimed films with Sophia in leading roles, all produced by James under his Paragon Pictures banner. Their 7,000-square-foot Beverly Hills mansion became known for hosting salon-style gatherings where emerging filmmakers could mingle with established talent. Their joint charitable foundation, Second Act, provided scholarships and mentorship for women breaking into filmmaking. They've created a rare balance, noted filmmaker Ava DuVernay in a Los Angeles Times profile. James gives Sophia space to create without compromise, and she brings authenticity to his commercial ventures. They've found the Hollywood holy grail: critical respect and commercial success. When Sophia turned down a $15 million offer for a generic thriller to instead star in The Historian's Daughter, an independent film about a Holocaust survivor reconnecting with her past, James backed her decision publicly. The film earned modest box office returns but secured Sophia's first Academy Award nomination. "James taught me to trust my instincts," she told Vanity Fair. "He's always believed my artistic choices would eventually align with audience desires." But everything changed on a crisp November morning in the mountains 80 miles outside Los Angeles. Sophia was filming Velvet Crown, a period drama set in 16th century England. The scene required her to flee across a castle parapet. Though not typically performing her own stunts, this sequence was relatively simple, a short run with elaborate period costuming being the primary challenge. "We've triple-checked everything," the stunt coordinator assured her as she was fitted with the safety harness beneath her costume. "The platform is secure, the harness is state-of-the-art, and we've got 4 crew members monitoring every step." What no one knew was that 3 days earlier, James had visited the set and approved budget modifications that included substituting a different rigging system than originally planned. "The new equipment is just as safe," he told the production manager. "And it'll save us nearly $30,000, which we can put toward the extended castle sequence." The documentation for the safety inspection was signed off, though the actual inspection was cursory at best. On the fourth take, as cameras rolled and the director called for more emotional intensity, Sophia felt the platform shift beneath her. For one suspended moment, she locked eyes with the camera operator, both recognizing something was wrong. Then the safety harness failed. Sophia fell 15 feet onto concrete, her right leg taking the impact with a sickening crack that echoed across the suddenly silent set. The pain was immediate and blinding. Through the haze of shock, she heard the director shouting for the set medic. The fall had shattered her femur and demolished her knee, requiring emergency surgery and the insertion of multiple titanium pins. The prognosis was guarded she would walk again, but the road to recovery would be long, and her signature physical grace might never fully return. James rushed to her side at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, visibly distraught and immediately taking charge. "I'm bringing in specialists from New York and Switzerland," he announced to the medical team. "Nothing but the best for my wife." To the press camped outside the hospital, he was the picture of the devoted husband, his voice breaking as he thanked fans for their support. "Sophia's strength amazes me daily," he told reporters. "Her resilience inspires everyone around her." Within weeks, their Beverly Hills mansion was transformed to accommodate Sophia's new reality. Ramps replaced steps, an elevator was installed, and the master suite was redesigned with accessibility in mind. James hired a live-in nurse, a physical therapist, and a personal chef specializing in anti-inflammatory nutrition. To the outside world, his dedication appeared absolute. "James has been extraordinary," Sophia told People magazine during her first interview after the accident, conducted in their redesigned living room with James seated protectively beside her. "He's rearranged his entire production schedule to be here for my recovery." What the carefully staged photos didn't show was how James subtly adjusted her position before the photographer arrived, how he answered questions directed at her, how he managed her pain medication schedule with meticulous attention. 6 months into her recovery, the changes in their relationship had become more pronounced, though visible only to those closest to them. James began attending industry functions alone, explaining that Sophia found such events too taxing in her condition. Scripts that had been sent to her were now reviewed by James first, many never making it to her nightstand. Her longtime agent, Leo Chin, found his calls increasingly intercepted by James or his assistant. "Just focus on healing," James would tell her, placing 2 pills in her palm each morning and evening. "I'll handle everything else." The medication left Sophia foggy, her once sharp mind dulled by a combination of painkillers, muscle relaxants, and anti-anxiety drugs prescribed by specialists James had selected. On the rare occasions when she questioned the dosage, James would remind her of the doctor's instructions, his concern seemingly genuine. "The specialists say consistency is crucial," he'd explain patiently. "Skip doses or reduce them, and you risk setbacks. Is that what you want?" His tone implied that questioning his care demonstrated both ingratitude and poor judgment. Their bedroom, once a shared sanctuary, had been reconfigured with a hospital-grade adjustable bed for Sophia, separated by several feet from James's California king. The arrangement, initially practical for her recovery, became symbolic of their growing emotional distance. Some nights she would wake to find James's bed empty, his voice a distant murmur from his home office down the hall. 9 months after the accident, Sophia sat in her wheelchair on the terrace of their Beverly Hills home, watching the sunset paint the Los Angeles skyline in shades of amber and gold. She had been scheduled to begin filming Awakening, a feminist reimagining of a classic novel, next month. Now the trade papers reported that production had been indefinitely postponed. That morning she had overheard James on the phone in his office, the door not quite closed. "We need someone younger, more physical for the role now," he was saying. Sophia understands. Her priorities have shifted since the accident. But she hadn't been consulted about the project's future. In fact, she had been working privately with her physical therapist on specific movements required for the character, hoping to be ready when production began. Now it seemed decisions about her career were being made without her input. As darkness fell over Los Angeles, Sophia wheeled herself back inside, pausing at the gleaming kitchen island where James was reviewing documents. "I heard about Awakening," she said carefully. "I thought we agreed I'd be ready by the production date." James looked up, his expression softening to what she now recognized as his handling Sophia face. "Sweetheart, we discussed this last week. Don't you remember?" His voice carried just a hint of concern. "The doctors advised against rushing your recovery for a physically demanding role. You agreed it wasn't worth the risk." She had no memory of this conversation. "I don't recall, Dash." That's what concerns me, James interrupted gently. The specialists warned me your medication might affect your short-term memory. It's nothing to worry about, just part of the healing process. He reached across the island to squeeze her hand. I'm handling everything so you don't have to worry. As he turned his attention back to his paperwork, Sophia felt a familiar fog descending, whether from the evening medication she'd taken or the growing sense of disconnection from her own life, she couldn't be sure. What she did know was that something felt wrong not just with her body, which was healing more slowly than expected, but with the narrative of her recovery that James was carefully constructing around her. That night, as James slept soundly across the unbridgeable gap between their beds, Sophia stared at the ceiling, trying to assemble coherent thoughts through the haze of medication. She had once portrayed a woman gaslit by her husband in the echo chamber, studying psychological manipulation for the role. Now certain patterns seemed disturbingly familiar, alternative explanations for her concerns, subtle challenges to her memory, decisions made for her own good, without her input. It's different, she whispered to herself in the darkness. James loves me. He's protecting me, not controlling me. But as sleep finally claimed her, a question lingered. If this was protection, why did it feel increasingly like a beautifully designed cage? The glass walls of Soho House, West Hollywood sparkled in the afternoon sunlight as Hollywood's elite mingled over artisanal cocktails and carefully curated small plates. Sophia Taylor sat alone at a corner table, her wheelchair positioned to provide both privacy and a view of the entrance. She checked her watch, 2:15 p.m. Her former agent Leo Chen was 15 minutes late, unusual for a man known for his punctuality. 9 months had passed since her accident, and this was Sophia's first industry meeting without James orchestrating every detail. She had told him she was meeting Dr. Maya Williams, her physical therapist, for lunch in Santa Monica. The lie had tasted bitter on her tongue, but the growing knot of suspicion in her stomach demanded investigation. When Leo finally arrived, his expression shifted from professional composure to shock upon seeing her. Sophia, he said, embracing her with genuine warmth. You look. He hesitated, clearly searching for the right words. Terrible, she offered with a wry smile. It's okay, Leo. Honesty between us was always our policy. Leo shook his head as he settled into the chair across from her. Not terrible. Different. Subdued. He studied her face carefully. Are you feeling okay? James told everyone you were making excellent progress. Sophia's smile faltered. When exactly did James tell you this? The last 3 times I asked him to connect us, he said you were traveling. A flicker of confusion crossed Leo's face. Traveling? I've been in my Beverly Hills office every day for months. I've called at least twice weekly since your accident. Your assistant, or rather, James's assistant, who now manages your calendar, always says you're resting or therapy sessions. The confirmation of her suspicions sent a chill through Sophia. She had been systematically isolated from her professional allies, just as she'd begun to fear. Leo, I need to know what's happening with my career. The real story, not the version James has been feeding me. Over the next hour, Leo revealed the disturbing reality of her professional situation. Awakening had not been postponed, it had been recast with Natalie Cruz, a rising 29-year-old actress who had appeared in 2 of James's recent productions. The insurance claim from Sophia's accident had resulted in a $12 million payout to Paragon Pictures, money that was supposedly earmarked for her next project, but had mysteriously disappeared into production costs for other films. The most concerning thing, Leo said, lowering his voice, is the narrative James has been cultivating about your condition. He's been telling key industry figures that your injuries resulted in cognitive issues, that you're struggling with memory and emotional stability. Sophia's grip tightened on her water glass. He's setting me up to fail. But why? This doesn't make sense. As Leo was about to respond, Sophia's phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. Check your email. You deserve to know the truth about your husband. With trembling fingers, she opened her email to find a single image attached. James and Natalie Cruz exiting a private medical office on Rodeo Drive, his hand resting possessively on her visibly pregnant belly. The timestamp showed yesterday afternoon when James had claimed to be in meetings with Paramount executives. I need to go, Sophia said abruptly, her voice hollow. Thank you, Leo. For everything. Sophia, wait. Leo's concern was evident. Whatever you just saw, don't confront him alone. James has been very calculated. Let me help you. She managed a nod before wheeling herself toward the exit, her mind racing faster than her hands could propel her wheelchair. Back at their Beverly Hills mansion, Sophia positioned herself in James's home office, the damning photograph open on her tablet. When she heard his Tesla pull into the driveway at precisely 6:30 p.m., she steeled herself for the confrontation ahead. James entered, loosening his Hermes tie. "You're in my office," he observed, surprise evident in his tone. "Is everything okay?" "That depends," Sophia replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "How was your meeting with Paramount today?" "Productive. They're interested in the Jenkins script." James poured himself 3 fingers of 25-year-old Macallan, not offering Sophia any. "How was physical therapy?" "I didn't go." She turned her tablet toward him, revealing the photograph. "Who is pregnant in this picture, James? You or Natalie?" James's expression flickered momentarily before settling into practiced concern. He set down his glass and approached slowly, as if she were a spooked animal. "Where did you get this? Does it matter? Is she carrying your child?" James sighed heavily, the sound of a patient man deeply disappointed. "This is exactly what Dr. Abrams warned about. The medication can cause paranoia, distorted thinking. Answer the question, James." He knelt beside her wheelchair, his expression earnest. "Natalie is 5 months pregnant, yes. Her husband Greg, the cinematographer from Velvet Crown, is thrilled. I was accompanying her to her appointment because she felt dizzy at our script meeting. As her mentor and friend, I was concerned." The explanation was smooth, detailed, and delivered with the perfect note of righteous indignation at her suspicion. It was also, Sophia was increasingly certain, a complete fabrication. "Greg Mendez is gay, James. Everyone in the industry knows he married his partner in a ceremony at the chateau last summer. I sent them Waterford crystal." James's recovery was impressive. "Not Greg Mendez. Greg Patterson. Lighting designer. Not cinematographer. This paranoia isn't healthy, Sophia." He stood, creating physical distance. "Have you been taking your medication properly? These delusions could indicate your dosage needs adjustment." The familiar fog of doubt crept in. Was she confused? Mixing up names? The medications did affect her memory. But then she remembered Leo's revelations, the systematic isolation, the replaced opportunities. "I want to see my complete medical records," she said firmly. "And I'd like to meet with Dr. Abrams alone next time." James's smile was gentle, patronizing. "Of course. I'll arrange it. But first, let me get your evening medication. You seem agitated." As he left for the kitchen, Sophia quickly took photos of several documents from his desk drawer, production schedules that listed Natalie Cruz as the lead in what should have been her next 3 films. By the time James returned with 2 pills and a glass of water, she had replaced everything and closed the drawer. "Here you go," he said, watching as she dutifully placed the pills in her mouth and took a sip of water. What he didn't see was her discreetly tucking the pills into the side of her cheek, a technique she had perfected from playing a psychiatric patient in an indie film years ago. Later that night, after flushing the pills down the toilet when James wasn't looking, Sophia lay awake planning her next move. Her mind, clearer now after secretly reducing her medication for the past week, raced with uncomfortable questions. Had James orchestrated her accident? Was her recovery being deliberately hindered? And most pressingly, how could she prove any of this? The next morning, Sophia called Dr. Maya Williams to reschedule her therapy session to 2 p.m., when James would be in a production meeting for Awakening. Maya had been recommended by a former co-star, not selected by James, which made her perhaps the only medical professional in Sophia's life not under her husband's influence. "I need to ask you something off the record," Sophia said once they were alone in the private therapy room. It's 20-foot ceilings and mirrored walls designed for patients to visualize their progress. Maya, a compact woman with keen eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, nodded. "I sense this isn't about your quadriceps strengthening program." "These medications," Sophia placed the bottles on the table between them. "I've been on them for 9 months. James manages the dosage. But lately I've been doubting things. My memory, my perceptions." Maya examined each bottle carefully, her expression growing increasingly troubled. This combination at these dosages would make anyone foggy and disoriented. And this one dash, she held up a bottle of muscle relaxants, isn't typically prescribed long-term for your type of injury anymore. It's known to cause memory issues. A cold feeling settled in Sophia's stomach. My husband says Dr. Abrams insists on this specific regimen. Dr. Howard Abrams? From Cedars. When Sophia nodded, Maya frowned. That's strange. He's known for being conservative with medications, especially opioids and benzodiazepines. These dosages don't align with his typical approach. She hesitated, then asked carefully, Sophia, does your husband attend all your medical appointments? Yes. He says it's too complex for me to track while medicated. Maya's concern was evident. I think you should see a different neurologist, one who isn't connected to your husband's network. I can recommend someone discreet if you're interested. 2 days later, Dr. Sarah Kaufman, a neurologist suggested by Maya, reviewed Sophia's case in her Culver City office. Away from the Beverly Hills medical establishment where James held considerable influence, Dr. Kaufman was direct and alarming in her assessment. Mrs. Bennett, several of these medications contradict the standard protocol for your injury. The combination and dosages would significantly impair cognitive function and potentially slow physical recovery. She looked up from her notes. Who has been managing your prescription regimen? My primary physician, Dr. Westfield. He works closely with my husband. Dr. Kaufman frowned. I see multiple prescriptions from different specialists but limited consultation between them. She hesitated. With your permission, I'd like to run some blood work and develop a more appropriate treatment plan. The test results confirmed Dr. Kaufman's suspicions. Sophia's blood showed higher levels of certain medications than prescribed, suggesting someone had been increasing her dosages without medical authorization. This combination would cause fatigue, confusion, and memory issues, Dr. Kaufman explained gently. It may have even been hindering your physical recovery. Armed with this knowledge, Sophia agreed to Dr. Kaufman's supervised plan to gradually taper off the unnecessary medications. The process was uncomfortable. She experienced headaches, anxiety, and insomnia, but within 2 weeks, she noticed significant differences. Her mind felt sharper, her energy improved, and most tellingly, her physical therapy sessions with Maya showed measurable progress. You've advanced more in the past 10 days than in the previous 3 months, Maya noted during a particularly successful session where Sophia managed to stand for nearly 5 minutes with minimal support. Meanwhile, Sophia's investigation into James deepened. With her mind clearer, she began noticing patterns she had missed before. The home security system sent alerts directly to James's phone whenever exterior doors opened. Her credit cards, once showing regular charges at boutiques and restaurants, now only reflected medical expenses and home deliveries. The production company they had built together, once a partnership of equals, had been restructured with James as the sole decision-maker during her temporary incapacity. Through careful observation and pointed questions to their household staff, Sophia discovered a timeline of James's relationship with Natalie Cruz that stretched back 14 months predating her accident. Photographs from industry events showed them in close conversation at premieres and parties, always with plausible professional context, but the pattern was unmistakable once she knew to look for it. Most disturbingly, Sophia uncovered preliminary paperwork in James's desk drawer regarding conservatorship for mentally incapacitated adults. Her name was highlighted throughout the document, along with James's handwritten notes about documented episodes of confusion and inability to make sound financial decisions. The betrayal was devastating in its thoroughness. James hadn't just been unfaithful, he had been systematically undermining her recovery, her career, and potentially her freedom, all while presenting himself publicly as the devoted husband caring for his injured wife. One afternoon, while James was at a production meeting, which Sophia now suspected involved Natalie, she received an unexpected visitor. Agnes, their housekeeper for 6 years, had let in Sophia's sister Zoe without announcing her a breach of the strict protocols James had established for visitors. He fired me, Agnes explained, tears in her eyes. This morning. Said I wasn't following proper procedures for Mrs. Bennett's care. But I know it's because I let you take that call from Mr. Leo last week when Mr. Bennett was out. After Agnes left, Zoe, whom Sophia hadn't seen in nearly 8 months despite multiple attempted visits, was horrified by her sister's condition. You've lost at least 15 pounds, she said, eyeing Sophia critically. And your cognitive processing is clearly affected. What the hell is going on, Soph? The dam broke. Sophia confided everything: her suspicions, the medication manipulation, the affair with Natalie, the professional sabotage, and her growing fear that her accident might not have been entirely accidental. Zoe, a cybersecurity specialist who had always regarded James with suspicion, was grimly unsurprised. "I tried to visit you 6 times after your accident. Each time James or his assistant said you were too tired or in too much pain. I sent birthday gifts, Christmas presents. Did you receive any of them?" Sophia shook her head, tears forming. "I thought you'd abandoned me when I needed you most." "That bastard," Zoe whispered. "He isolated you completely." She squeezed Sophia's hand. "But he made one crucial mistake." "What's that?" Zoe's smile was fierce. "He forgot I crack digital security systems for a living. If there's evidence of what he's done, I can find it." She pulled out her laptop. "And Sophia? I never stopped trying to reach you. Not for one day." As Zoe began her digital reconnaissance, Sophia felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope, mixed with a growing determination that went beyond mere survival. James Bennett had underestimated her, believing her broken body reflected a broken spirit. He was about to discover just how thoroughly he had miscalculated. The basement gym in Dr. Maya Williams' Brentwood Rehabilitation Center hummed with the quiet energy of focused determination. At 6:30 a.m., 2 hours before the facility officially opened, Sophia gripped the parallel bars, sweat beading on her forehead as she forced her damaged leg to take another step. The excruciating pain that radiated from her knee up through her hip had become a familiar companion over the past 3 weeks of secret intensive therapy. "5 more steps," Maya urged, her voice firm but encouraging. "Your body can do this. The medication was masking your true progress." Sophia gritted her teeth and pushed forward. "James thinks I'm at morning meditation sessions," she said between labored breaths. "Carrie at the front desk of Spirit Center texts me confirmation of my attendance every day." Maya nodded approvingly. "Your network of allies is growing." "Good." She monitored Sophia's posture with a professional eye. "Your gait is improving significantly. Another month of this intensity, and you'll be ready for a cane instead of the wheelchair for shorter distances." The possibility sent a surge of determination through Sophia's exhausted muscles. Each step represented more than physical recovery, it was reclamation of her independence, a direct rejection of James's carefully constructed narrative of her helplessness. After the session, showered and seated in Maya's private office, Sophia meticulously recorded her progress in a journal she kept locked in a safety deposit box at a bank branch James knew nothing about. The notebook contained not just her physical milestones but detailed documentation of James's deceptions, dates, times, contradictions in his stories, overheard phone conversations, and the slow withdrawal of her autonomy. "The most important thing," Maya reminded her, closing the office blinds for privacy, "is maintaining the deception while you gather evidence. You must continue appearing dependent and confused. Take the placebos I've prepared instead of his medication, but let him believe you're still under his pharmaceutical control." Sophia nodded, tucking the journal into her bag. "I've perfected the art of hiding pills in my cheek and disposing of them later. A skill from playing Chelsea Reynolds in Beyond the Ward. Never thought I'd need it in real life." Her smile was tight with irony. "Method acting at its finest," Maya replied. "Now let's discuss how you'll handle the upcoming check-in with Dr. Westfield. James will be present, so we need to prepare your performance carefully." Over the following weeks, Sophia lived what amounted to a double life. With James, she maintained the persona he expected: physically limited, mentally foggy, increasingly dependent on his guidance for everything from medication schedules to social interactions. But in secret, alongside Maya, Zoe, and gradually Leo, she was building both physical strength and a comprehensive case against her husband. Zoe's cybersecurity skills proved invaluable. Working remotely from her downtown loft to avoid James's suspicion, she methodically penetrated his digital world. "He's been careless," she reported during one of their secure video calls, conducted while James attended a production meeting that Sophia now knew involved Natalie Cruz. "Arrogance makes people sloppy with security." Through Zoe's efforts, they discovered emails between James and Dr. Westfield instructing the doctor to emphasize Sophia's limitations rather than her potential for recovery during appointments. Financial records revealed millions diverted from their joint production company into offshore accounts. Most damning were communications with Olivia dated from before Sophia's accident, including plans for their professional and personal future together once Sophia was no longer an obstacle. "He's been planning this for at least 18 months, Zoe concluded grimly. The accident may not have been his original plan, but he certainly seized the opportunity it presented. The most disturbing discovery came through Leo's industry connections. Using his extensive network, he located Marcus Johnson, a safety coordinator who had been fired from the Velvet Crown production immediately after Sophia's accident. Their meeting took place at a nondescript diner in Burbank, far from the industry haunts where they might be recognized. Sophia arrived in sunglasses and a headscarf, wheeled in by Maya, who had become her most trusted confidant. "I wasn't supposed to be there that day," Marcus explained nervously, eyes darting to the diner entrance periodically. "I switched shifts with another coordinator. That's why Mr. Bennett couldn't prevent me from seeing the inspection records." "What inspection records?" Sophia pressed, her heart racing. Marcus couldn't meet her eyes. The platform that collapsed, it had been flagged for reinforcement the previous week. The work order was signed off as completed, but there's no record of the actual repairs being done. He hesitated. The signature on the completion form belongs to James Bennett. The revelation sent a chill through Sophia. "Are you suggesting James knew the platform was unsafe when I used it?" "I'm saying the timing is concerning. The accident happened 1 week after Miss Cruz was quietly added to the Paragon Pictures development roster with a first-look deal. And 3 days before your fall, Mr. Bennett personally approved budget adjustments that included substituting a different rigging system than originally planned." Maya squeezed Sophia's hand under the table as Marcus continued. 2 days after your accident, Mr. Bennett came to the production office, asked me to delete specific footage from the security server. He shifted uncomfortably. He offered me $25,000 cash. Said it showed you in a private moment upset, crying, and he wanted to protect your dignity. "Did you delete it?" Maya asked. Marcus nodded. "But I made a copy first. Insurance, you know. Never thought I'd need it." From his jacket he produced a flash drive. It shows Bennett examining the platform early on the morning of your accident, before anyone else arrived on set. Later, he's seen speaking with the foreman, handing him an envelope. No work was done on the platform after that conversation. As Maya drove them back to Brentwood, Sophia sat in silence, trying to process the possibility that her husband might have been not just opportunistic but actively complicit in her injury. The accident that had shattered her leg, derailed her career, and left her vulnerable to his manipulation might have been, if not orchestrated, at least knowingly permitted by the man who had vowed to love and protect her. "This crosses into potential criminal territory," said Rafael Dominguez, the attorney specializing in domestic abuse and financial fraud, whom Leo had discreetly connected them with. They met in his downtown office after hours, the Los Angeles skyline twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows as Sophia presented the evidence they had gathered. "Negligence at minimum, attempted manslaughter at worst," Rafael continued, reviewing the security footage from the set. "And the medication manipulation alone is potentially criminal. The financial fraud is the easiest to prove, but these other elements paint a pattern of calculated harm that strengthens your overall case." Sophia felt strangely calm as the final pieces aligned. "What's our next step?" "We need secure copies of everything evidence James can't access or destroy," Rafael advised. "And while building the legal case, we must ensure your physical safety. His behavior will likely escalate if he suspects you're breaking free of his control." With Rafael's guidance, they developed a comprehensive strategy. Documentation was stored in multiple secure locations with Zoe, with Maya, in Rafael's office safe, and in a digital vault that only Sophia could access. Plans were made for Sophia to leave the house quickly if necessary, with Maya offering her guest house as a safe haven. The physical and mental strength Sophia was rebuilding served her well during this period of intense preparation. The fog of medication had fully cleared, and with it, her natural intelligence and performer's instincts resurfaced. She observed James with the analytical eye she once brought to complex character studies, noting patterns in his behavior, cataloging his deceptions, and perfecting her performance as the compliant, dependent wife he expected. James, meanwhile, grew increasingly bold in his manipulations, believing Sophia firmly under his control. He began discussing the possibility of selling their Beverly Hills mansion too many stairs for your condition, darling, and moving to a smaller property that he had already purchased in his name alone. He suggested that managing their joint finances was an unnecessary stress for her and presented documents transferring her power of attorney to him. Just to simplify things while you focus on healing, he explained, his tone reasonable, his eyes watching carefully for any sign of resistance. Sophia signed with a hand she deliberately made tremble slightly, her signature wobbly evidence. She knew he would think of her continuing impairment. What James didn't know was that Raphael had prepared a separate, legally binding document revoking this power of attorney, which Sophia had already signed and notarized. It would be filed at the precise moment their plan moved into action. 6 weeks into her secret rehabilitation program, Sophia achieved a milestone that brought tears to her eyes. Standing in Maya's gym, wearing the custom leg brace Maya had designed to provide support while allowing muscle development, she took 12 steps without the parallel bars, using only a cane for balance. "You did it," Maya said, her professional demeanor briefly breaking as she hugged Sophia. "I knew you could." Sophia stared at herself in the mirror, seeing not just the physical accomplishment, but the transformation of her spirit. The woman who had entered Maya's facility broken and doubting her own perceptions now stood tall literally and figuratively. Her body was leaner but stronger, her gaze clear and determined. "He thought my broken leg meant a broken will," Sophia said quietly. "A fundamental miscalculation." That evening, during a call with Zoe conducted via a secure app while soaking in the bathtub, one of the few places James didn't monitor, Sophia learned that her sister had made a critical breakthrough. "I accessed his cloud storage," Zoe reported, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Sophia, he's been documenting what he calls your episodes, for months recording conversations where you sound confused, taking photos of you sleeping or medicated, collecting statements from staff about your erratic behavior. He's building a case for your mental incompetence." "For what purpose?" Sophia asked, though she already suspected the answer. "There are emails to an attorney specializing in conservatorship for mentally incapacitated adults. He's laying groundwork to take legal control of your affairs, your medical decisions, your finances, possibly even your physical freedom." The revelation should have terrified her, but instead Sophia felt an odd sense of validation. Her suspicions hadn't been paranoia. The danger was real and imminent. "This accelerates our timeline," she said calmly. "There's more," Zoe continued. "I found the invitation list and planning documents for a major industry gala. He's hosting at your house 3 weeks from now. It's being billed as a celebration of Paragon Pictures' new direction, but the internal documents make it clear this is his public transition from you to Natalie." Later that night, lying in her adjustable bed with James asleep in his separate space across the room, Sophia considered the significance of this discovery. James was creating exactly the stage she needed, a gathering of industry power players who had been fed his narrative about her for months, assembled to witness what he intended as her final humiliation and his triumph. Instead, it would become the setting for her resurrection. The following morning, Sophia convened her core team at Maya's facility. Leo, Zoe, Maya, and Raphael to finalize their strategy. "We have 3 weeks," she said, her voice steady with newfound strength. 3 weeks to prepare for the performance of my lifetime. "Are you sure you want to do it this way?" Leo asked. "We have enough evidence for legal action without the public confrontation." Sophia's smile was determined. "James has spent a year controlling my narrative, isolating me from my colleagues, and positioning me as mentally unstable. This isn't just about justice through the courts, it's about reclaiming my story publicly." She looked around at the allies who had helped her rebuild herself from the inside out. "Besides, I'm an actress. The stage is where I belong." As they outlined the final preparations, Sophia felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything she had experienced in her career. Every role she had ever played, from Shakespeare to psychological thrillers to period dramas, had prepared her for this moment of truth. Every technique she had mastered, every emotion she had learned to channel authentically, would serve her now in the most important performance of her life. "James created this tragedy," she told her team as they concluded their meeting. But I'm rewriting the ending. The Bennett mansion gleamed under the soft glow of strategically placed lighting, its modern architecture transformed into an elegant venue for the 200 industry elites who had received the coveted invitation to Paragon Pictures' Vision Forward Gala. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the twinkling lights of Los Angeles sprawling 500 feet below their hillside perch. Inside, white orchids and calla lilies adorned minimalist arrangements on tables draped in midnight blue linen, the color scheme matching the Paragon Pictures logo prominently displayed on screens throughout the 5,000-square-foot main floor. Sophia sat in her wheelchair in the master bedroom, allowing the makeup artist James had hired to apply the finishing touches to her face. She had insisted on wearing the midnight blue Valentino gown from her last public appearance before the accident, a choice that had visibly irritated James. "Are you sure that's appropriate?" he had asked that morning, gesturing toward her wheelchair. The styling team brought several options that would be more accommodating. "I want to wear something that reminds everyone of who I was," Sophia had replied with a carefully constructed smile of childlike determination. "Don't worry, your assistant had it altered perfectly." Now studying her reflection as the makeup artist packed up her supplies, Sophia noted how the past year had transformed her. Her face was thinner, more angular, her once luminous skin now bearing a pallor that even expert cosmetics couldn't fully disguise. But her eyes, those were different in a way James hadn't noticed. The fog had lifted, replaced by a crystalline clarity and purpose. "You look lovely, Mrs. Bennett," the makeup artist said, though her eyes betrayed concern at Sophia's fragile appearance. "Thank you, Marissa. Could you ask Maya to come in?" Sophia requested, naming her physical therapist who had arrived ostensibly to help her navigate the evening's physical challenges. When Maya entered, closing the door firmly behind her, Sophia's demeanor shifted subtly. "Is everything in place?" Maya nodded, her professional demeanor belying the tension of the moment. "Zoe has control of all the house system's security cameras, presentation screens, audio. Leo has seated your allies strategically throughout the room. Raphael is waiting with the legal team and authorities 3 blocks away, ready on your signal." She placed a small flesh-colored earpiece on the vanity. "This will allow Zoe to communicate with you discreetly." And this dash, she handed Sophia what appeared to be a compact makeup mirror, has the transmitter that will activate the video sequence when you're ready. Sophia tucked both items into her evening bag. "And the medical team?" Dr. Kaufman is among the guests. James doesn't know her. 2 paramedics are stationed as catering staff, fully briefed and prepared for any scenario. A soft knock interrupted them. "Sophia!" James called through the door. "Guests are arriving. You should make an appearance." Just finishing up, Sophia called back, her voice adopting the slightly uncertain tone she had perfected for James's benefit. As his footsteps retreated, she turned to Maya. "It's time." Maya squeezed her hand. "Remember, no matter what happens next, you've already won by reclaiming yourself." Downstairs, the gala was in full swing. James moved confidently through the crowd, every inch the successful producer in his custom Tom Ford tuxedo. He greeted studio executives, directors, and investors with practiced charm, accepting congratulations on both Paragon's successful year and his devoted care of Sophia throughout her challenging recovery. At precisely 8:15 p.m., James personally wheeled Sophia into the main reception area, his hand resting possessively on her shoulder. "Look who felt strong enough to join us," he announced to nearby guests, his voice carrying just the right note of protective pride. Sophia played her part perfectly, smiling appreciatively as colleagues and industry associates approached with careful sympathy, telling her how well she looked while their eyes registered shock at her diminished appearance. As James had instructed, staff eventually positioned her wheelchair in a corner of the main room, partially obscured by a large floral arrangement. From this vantage point, Sophia observed James orchestrating the event with meticulous attention to optics. He had seated key industry figures, studio heads, prominent directors, major investors at optimal locations to witness the evening's planned announcement. Mayor Harrison was there, along with Commissioner Baker from the Film Commission and several journalists from industry publications. At precisely 8:45 p.m., a sleek black Tesla pulled up outside. Through the window, Sophia watched as James stepped out to personally greet Natalie Cruz, resplendent in a form-fitting gold gown that accentuated her 6-month pregnant belly. He kissed her cheek with familiar intimacy, his hand lingering at her waist as he guided her inside. The room subtly quieted as they entered, guests noticing the pregnant newcomer and the proprietary way James introduced her to key contacts. Sophia observed the quick, uncomfortable glances cast in her direction, people connecting the dots and realizing something significant was unfolding. Everything is proceeding exactly as anticipated. Zoe's voice came through the discreet earpiece. James's presentation is scheduled for 9:15. Leo reports that the USB drive with our evidence is successfully integrated with the AV system. Facial recognition confirms all target audience members are present. At 9:15, James clinked his glass for attention, moving to the small stage area where a projection screen displayed the Paragon Pictures logo. Friends, colleagues, esteemed partners, he began, his voice carrying confidently across the hushed room. Thank you for joining us in our home for this special evening. Sophia noted his deliberate use of our home, maintaining the facade of partnership even as he prepared to dismantle it publicly. Paragon Pictures has always been about vision, James continued, about seeing possibilities where others see only obstacles. Tonight, I'm excited to share our newest vision, one that will transform not just our skylines but our company itself. The screen behind him shifted to renderings of an ambitious new film slate, featuring striking visuals from upcoming projects. The Horizon series represents our future, James declared, expertly building enthusiasm with each practice phrase. A future that embraces innovation, diversity, and new leadership. He gestured toward Natalie, inviting her to join him on stage. It's my pleasure to introduce Natalie Cruz, who joins Paragon Pictures as our new creative director and my partner in bringing the Horizon to life. Applause filled the room, though Sophia noticed many guests looking uncomfortable, their eyes darting between James, Natalie, and Sophia's wheelchair in the corner. James placed his arm around Natalie's waist, his smile broadening. Natalie brings fresh perspective and brilliant talent to our team, he continued. Her vision for emotionally authentic storytelling aligns perfectly with Paragon's future direction. The irony was staggering, James appropriating Sophia's lifelong commitment to authentic representation as a selling point for his new partner. But tonight is about more than business announcements, James continued, his voice softening to a tone Sophia recognized as his most manipulative. It's about honesty and new beginnings. The room grew uncomfortably quiet as guests sensed what was coming. Life takes unexpected turns, James said, looking directly at Sophia for the first time that evening. Sometimes it brings challenges that change our path entirely. Sophia maintained perfect composure, her face revealing nothing as James continued his carefully crafted narrative. Sophia's accident 18 months ago changed both our lives profoundly, he said, his expression a masterclass in performative compassion. Through her courage, she has shown what it means to adapt to difficult circumstances. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience, everyone appreciating the expected platitudes about her bravery. But life also brings unexpected joy, James continued, turning to Natalie with undisguised affection. Sometimes when we least expect it, we're offered a second chance at happiness. With theatrical timing, James took Natalie's hand and placed it over her pregnant belly. Natalie and I are expecting a child together in 3 months, he announced. A son who represents the future I've always dreamed of. The room erupted in confused reactions, gasps, muttered conversations, and uncomfortable shuffling. All eyes turned to Sophia expectantly, waiting for the breakdown James had anticipated. Instead, Sophia smiled and began slowly wheeling herself toward the stage. Sophia, James said, warning in his voice as she approached. Perhaps you should dash. I'd like to say something if I may, Sophia interrupted, her voice clear and strong, not the timid tone James had grown accustomed to. After such a significant announcement, refusing her would appear callous in front of so many witnesses. Of course, he said tightly, offering her the microphone with obvious reluctance. Sophia positioned her wheelchair center stage between James and Natalie. She took the microphone and surveyed the room, people who had known her for years but had accepted James's narrative about her decline without question. First, I want to congratulate James and Natalie, she began calmly. A child is always a blessing, regardless of the circumstances of its conception. Natalie flushed, looking uncomfortably at James, who maintained a rigid smile. I've known about their relationship for some time, Sophia continued, causing another ripple of murmurs through the crowd. Just as I've known about the Malibu penthouse James purchased for them, using funds from our charitable foundation for women in film. James stepped forward, his hand reaching for the microphone. Sophia, you're upset. Let's not dash. I'm not upset, James. I'm finally clear-headed, Sophia said, turning to address the audience directly. Clear-headed because I've spent the past 3 months weaning myself off the unnecessary medications. James has been giving me medications that kept me confused, weak, and dependent. The room fell completely silent. You see, James didn't just betray me with an affair, Sophia explained, her voice steady. He systematically undermined my recovery from the very beginning. With practiced precision, Sophia activated the remote control hidden in her hand. The screen behind them switched from the horizon renderings to medical records, detailing her prescription regimen. These are my actual medical records, she explained as the documents displayed. And these the screen split to show a second set of records, are the modified versions James provided to my care team, increasing dosages and adding medications known to cause cognitive impairment. James's face drained of color. This is exactly what I was concerned about, he said loudly, attempting to regain control. Sophia has been experiencing paranoid delusions. Her doctors have been monitoring My doctors? Sophia interrupted. You mean the specialists you carefully selected and met with privately before my appointments? The ones who received specific instructions about emphasizing my limitations rather than potential recovery. The screen changed again, now showing emails between James and various medical professionals, his instructions highlighted in damning detail. Sophia continued methodically, her voice remaining calm. But the medication manipulation was just one part of a larger plan. James needed control of our finances without my involvement. The projection shifted to financial records showing the offshore accounts, property purchases, and foundation fund transfers James had concealed over the past 2 years. James has diverted more than $12 million from our company and charitable foundation, Sophia explained. Money that was meant to fund opportunities for women in film, but instead financed his new life with Natalie, including the Malibu penthouse and the $175,000 Mercedes parked in her garage. Raymond Jefferson, a major investor, stood up from his seat. Bennett, is this accurate? Foundation funds used for personal expenses. Before James could respond, Sophia continued her methodical exposure. Perhaps most disturbing was discovering James's role in my accident 18 months ago. The screen changed to show the security footage Marcus had provided James examining the unsafe platform, then paying the foreman to ignore it just hours before Sophia's fall. This footage was deleted from the production site's security system 2 days after my accident, Sophia explained. Fortunately, a conscientious security guard made a backup. James finally broke, lunging toward Sophia. Enough! You have no idea what you're talking about. You're confused, delusional. Several guests moved forward to restrain him, shocked by his aggressive movement toward his disabled wife. I'm not confused, James, Sophia replied calmly. Not anymore. Then, in the moment she had been preparing for weeks, Sophia engaged the brake on her wheelchair, placed her hands on the armrests, and slowly, deliberately stood up. A collective gasp filled the room as Sophia rose to her full height, steadied herself, and took a single step forward, then another. Reaching into the small bag attached to her wheelchair, she removed a folding cane and extended it. Thanks to proper medical care and intensive physical therapy, she said, standing tall before the stunned audience, I've regained significantly more function than James wanted anyone to know was possible. James's face contorted with rage and disbelief. This is a performance, he sputtered. She can barely dash. I can walk with assistance, Sophia corrected him. I can stand for 20 minutes. I can think clearly, all things you worked very hard to prevent, James. She turned back to the audience. I'm not sharing this tonight out of vengeance but accountability. James's actions harmed not just me, but everyone who believed in our company's mission and donated to our foundation. Mayor Harrison stepped forward. Mrs. Bennett, these are serious allegations. If they're accurate, every document I've shown has been verified, Sophia confirmed. And I've provided complete copies to the District Attorney's Office, the State Medical Board, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. As if on cue, the front door opened to admit several individuals in suits, representatives from law enforcement and regulatory agencies who had been waiting for Sophia's signal. Mr. Bennett, announced a stern-faced woman who identified herself as Special Agent Larson from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, we need to speak with you regarding allegations of wire fraud, embezzlement, and misappropriation of charitable funds. The gala dissolved into chaos as guests began hurriedly departing. Investors made urgent phone calls, industry executives clustered in shocked conversation, and James was escorted to the Home Office for preliminary questioning. Through it all, Sophia remained standing, supported by her cane, accepting the stunned congratulations and apologies of colleagues who had believed James's narrative about her condition. Some appeared genuinely ashamed of their complicity in her isolation. Others seemed primarily concerned with distancing themselves from the brewing scandal. Natalie, pale and shaken, approached Sophia after James was taken away. "I didn't know," she said quietly, "about the medications, the manipulation. He told me your condition was largely psychological, that you refused treatment." Sophia regarded her calmly. "What will you do now?" Natalie placed a protective hand over her belly. "I don't know. Everything I thought I knew." Her voice trailed off. "My issue isn't with you or your child," Sophia said with genuine compassion. "James is the architect of his own downfall." As the last guest departed and investigators continued gathering evidence from James's home office, Sophia finally returned to her wheelchair, not from inability to stand longer but from the simple fatigue of an emotionally exhausting evening. Maya appeared at her side, having waited discreetly in the background until the confrontation was complete. "You were magnificent," she said, squeezing Sophia's shoulder. Sophia looked around the empty room, at the remnants of the gala that was supposed to be her public humiliation, but had instead become James's downfall. "It's strange," she mused quietly. "I spent 18 months feeling trapped in this chair while James walked free. Now you can stand, and he's the one whose freedom is in jeopardy," Maya replied with satisfaction. Sophia shook her head. "Not justice. Not yet. But a beginning." Later that night, after the authorities had taken James for further questioning and the house stood empty except for Sophia, Maya, Zoe, and Leo, they gathered in the kitchen where Sophia had once sat confused and dependent, accepting James's explanations for her fractured reality. "The DA believes they have enough for multiple indictments," Raphael reported via speakerphone. "Wire fraud, embezzlement, medical tampering. The evidence regarding your accident is circumstantial but compelling in context. With the foundation fraud and medication manipulation so clearly documented, they may not need to prove intent with the platform failure." "And James?" Sophia asked. "Released on $2 million bail, but with travel restrictions. His assets are largely frozen pending investigation. He's been instructed to have no contact with you." "He'll rebuild his narrative," Leo warned. "He's already contacting allies, positioning you as mentally unstable, claiming the evidence is fabricated or misinterpreted." Sophia nodded, unsurprised. "Which is precisely why we have Phase 2. Zoe looked up from her laptop. "Camila Vega confirms she'll run the exclusive interview next week. Full exposure, your terms, your timing." "And the documentary team?" Sophia asked. "Ready when you are," Leo confirmed. "They want to follow your physical rehabilitation journey while exploring the broader issues of gaslighting, medical manipulation, and Hollywood's treatment of women as they age." Sophia leaned back in her chair, a wave of exhaustion finally catching up with her. The adrenaline that had carried her through the confrontation was ebbing, leaving in its wake the reality of what lay ahead: legal battles, public scrutiny, the painful process of rebuilding both her career and her sense of self. "Get some rest," Maya urged, noting Sophia's fatigue. "You've won the first battle. The war will still be there tomorrow." As her allies prepared to leave, making plans to reconvene the following day, Sophia wheeled herself to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. The city sprawled below, a tapestry of lights against the darkness, beautiful and treacherous in equal measure, not unlike the industry that had shaped her life. 18 months ago, she had been at the peak of her career, one half of Hollywood's golden couple. Tonight, she stood amid the ruins of that life, facing an uncertain future. And yet, for the first time since her accident, she felt truly free. The chair that had become her prison under James's manipulation was now simply a tool, one she could use or discard at her discretion. "Sophia," Leo called from the doorway. "Do you want me to stay? You shouldn't be alone tonight." She turned from the window, a smile of genuine warmth replacing the calculated expression she had maintained all evening. "I'm not alone anymore," she said. "That's the difference." After they had gone, Sophia navigated her wheelchair to the master bedroom, where signs of the FBI's search were evident in displaced items and open drawers. On the nightstand beside James's bed sat a framed photograph from their wedding day, both of them laughing, her head thrown back in genuine joy, his arms encircling her waist. She picked it up, studying the image of two people who no longer existed. With deliberate care, she removed the photograph from its frame and placed it in the drawer. The past would always be part of her story, but it would no longer define her horizon. "Mrs. Taylor, thank you for agreeing to this interview," Camila Vega said, adjusting her chair as the camera crew made final lighting adjustments in Sophia's new living room. The space was bright and airy, with 14-foot ceilings and full-length windows overlooking the Pacific Ocean from her Malibu beach house, not the penthouse James had purchased for Natalie, but a smaller, more personal 2,800-square-foot property Sophia had bought after selling their Beverly Hills mansion. 3 months had passed since the gala that had exposed James Bennett's betrayal to Hollywood's elite. Sophia sat in a comfortable armchair rather than her wheelchair, though her elegantly crafted rosewood cane rested visibly against the side table. "I think it's important to share this story," she replied, her voice steady and measured. "Not for my sake, but for anyone who might be experiencing something similar." Camila nodded. "Your case has certainly sparked important conversations about gaslighting, medical manipulation, and Hollywood's treatment of aging actresses." The interview that followed was comprehensive but dignified. Sophia recounted the gradual realization of James's betrayal, the evidence gathering, and her strategic approach to exposing him. She was neither vengeful nor bitter, presenting her experience with the clarity and insight that had once made her such a compelling actress. "Many people have called your gala confrontation the perfect revenge," Camila noted. "How do you respond to that characterization?" Sophia considered the question carefully. It wasn't about revenge. It was about truth and accountability. James didn't just betray me personally. He violated his professional obligations, misappropriated charitable funds meant to help women in film, and potentially endangered others with his disregard for safety regulations. "And yet the personal betrayal was profound," Camila pressed gently. "Yes," Sophia acknowledged. "Finding out your spouse has manipulated your medical care to maintain control, it's a violation that's difficult to describe." She paused, choosing her words with precision, but focusing solely on the personal aspect minimizes the broader implications. "What happened to me reflects patterns that affect many women in our industry." The interview covered the ongoing legal proceedings against James, who faced multiple federal charges for wire fraud, embezzlement, and financial crimes. The district attorney was still investigating whether charges related to Sophia's accident could be supported by the available evidence. "James maintains his innocence regarding your fall," Camila noted. "He claims the security footage shows only routine site inspection and legitimate payment to the foreman." Sophia nodded. "The evidence isn't conclusive on that point, but the pattern of behavior afterward, taking control of my medical care, isolating me from colleagues, manipulating my medication, speaks volumes." After the camera stopped rolling, Camila stayed for tea, curious about Sophia's next steps. In the 3 months since the gala, Sophia had established Phoenix Rising Productions, a new company focused on creating authentic stories about resilience and transformation, with particular emphasis on roles for women over 40 and performers with disabilities. "The foundation has been completely restructured," Sophia explained, setting down her teacup. "We've appointed a new board and implemented strict oversight protocols. Every dollar promised for accessibility and women's opportunities will be delivered." "And personally?" Camila asked. "How are you healing?" Sophia's smile was genuine, both physically and emotionally. "I'm stronger than I've been in years. Dr. Williams believes I'll regain approximately 80% of my pre-accident mobility. I'll always need a cane for longer distances, but I've come to see it as a tool that expands my capabilities, rather than a symbol of limitation." Across town, James sat in his attorney's office, a stark contrast to his former luxurious surroundings. The 250-square-foot room in a mid-tier Century City office building reflected his diminished circumstances, his assets frozen, his reputation shattered, his future in the industry he had once dominated now uncertain at best. "The plea deal is your best option," his criminal defense attorney advised, sliding documents across the desk. The financial evidence is overwhelming, and public sentiment is solidly against you. James's fall had been swift and complete. The Malibu penthouse intended for Natalie had been reclaimed by the restructured foundation. His reputation was in tatters, former colleagues refusing his calls, industry doors that had once opened at his approach now firmly closed. Even his parents had expressed their disappointment and shame after watching Camila's investigative report detailing his actions. Natalie had severed ties completely after learning the full extent of his manipulation, returning to her hometown in Oregon, determined to raise her child away from the scandal James had created. Her parting words had cut deeper than he'd expected. "You didn't just lie to Sophia. You made me complicit in torturing someone who had done nothing to deserve it." 6 weeks after the interview aired, Sophia stood backstage at the Women in Film annual gala, preparing to make her first major public appearance since exposing James. Her heart raced as she heard the introduction from the stage. "Our next presenter has redefined courage in our industry," the host announced. Her journey from acclaimed actress to survivor to advocate has inspired meaningful change in how we approach safety, representation, and accountability in film. Please welcome Sophia Taylor. Taking a deep breath, Sophia walked onto the stage with measured steps, her cane tapping lightly on the hardwood floor. The audience rose in a standing ovation that continued for nearly 2 minutes, the sustained applause bringing unexpected tears to her eyes. When the room finally quieted, Sophia spoke with the authentic presence that had once made her such a powerful performer. "Thank you for that welcome, though I must say I've never felt less deserving of applause. What happened to me is happening to countless others without the platform or resources to fight back." She looked out at the sea of faces, many familiar, some new to the industry since her temporary absence. "Tonight, I'm honored to announce the Phoenix Initiative, a 3-pronged approach to creating safer, more inclusive sets in studios." For the next 10 minutes, she outlined a comprehensive program combining mandatory safety protocols, mentorship opportunities for women over 40, and concrete support for performers with disabilities. The initiative would be funded initially by the recovered funds from James's financial fraud, a transformation of harm into healing that felt deeply appropriate. As summer turned to fall, Sophia's professional resurrection continued with the announcement of her first major project under Phoenix Rising Productions, a film called Refraction, about a photographer who survives a devastating betrayal to rediscover her artistic voice. Unlike typical Hollywood redemption stories, the script didn't minimize the protagonist's anger or pain, instead incorporating them into a complex portrait of healing that rejected simple narratives of forgiveness or closure. "What makes this project unique," Sophia explained during a Variety interview, "is that we're not just telling a story about disability or recovery, we're employing a crew and cast that includes people with actual disabilities, ensuring authentic representation both in front of and behind the camera." The film secured financing surprisingly quickly, with several major studios competing for distribution rights. The industry that had been complicit in her isolation now seemed eager to demonstrate its support, though Sophia recognized the self-interest behind much of the enthusiasm. Still, pragmatism had always been one of her strengths. If her story could create openings for others, she would leverage that opportunity without illusion. Throughout this period of professional rebuilding, Sophia continued her physical therapy with Maya. Their sessions now focused on strength and endurance rather than basic mobility. The improvements were gradual but significant. She could now walk unassisted for up to 30 minutes, climb a flight of stairs with minimal discomfort, and had regained much of the grace that had once characterized her movement. "You're my best success story," Maya remarked during one session, watching as Sophia completed a complex series of balance exercises. "Though I suspect that has more to do with your determination than my protocols." "It's been a partnership," Sophia replied, carefully lowering herself from the balance platform. Like all the best relationships, her reconnection with her sister Zoe had deepened into a genuine friendship, healing wounds that predated James's interference. They spoke daily and had standing Sunday brunches at a quiet cafe in Venice Beach, away from industry haunts and paparazzi. "You know what still amazes me?" Zoe said during one such brunch, 6 months after the gala confrontation. "How you've managed to turn this experience into something constructive without minimizing what was done to you. Most people would still be consumed by anger." Sophia considered this as she stirred her coffee. Oh, I still have anger. I probably always will. She looked out at the ocean, the November sunlight catching the waves. But anger can be fuel for creation rather than destruction. I'm choosing how to channel it. 1 year after the gala, as Refraction entered post-production in Phoenix, Rising announced 2 new projects focusing on women's stories. Sophia received an unexpected request. James, awaiting sentencing after accepting a plea deal that acknowledged most of the financial crimes while maintaining his innocence regarding her accident, had asked to see her. You don't have to go, Raphael advised during a conference call with her support team. There's absolutely no legal requirement, and it could be emotionally destabilizing. I'm going, Sophia said firmly. Not for reconciliation but for closure. On my terms, in a controlled environment. The meeting took place in Raphael's office, with both legal teams present. James had aged visibly in the year since his downfall. The confident charisma that had once commanded rooms now diminished, his designer suit hanging slightly loose on his frame. Thank you for coming, he said as they sat across from each other in Raphael's conference room. I wasn't sure you would. Neither was I, Sophia admitted, meeting his gaze directly. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them before James spoke again. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did to you to us. Sophia regarded him steadily, offering no absolution. I destroyed something valuable, he said slowly. Not just our marriage but the partnership we had built, the vision we shared. Sophia nodded but remained silent, allowing the weight of his acknowledgement to fill the space between them. Why did you do it, James? She finally asked. Was I not enough after the accident? James seemed genuinely pained by the question. It wasn't about you not being enough. It was about me not being enough. He looked down at his hands, the wedding ring long removed. When you were injured, everyone saw me as the devoted husband caring for his disabled wife. It gave me a role, an identity that brought admiration. But secretly you resented it, Sophia finished for him. Yes, he admitted quietly. And once I started down that path with Natalie, maintaining both lives required more and more deception. The medications gave me control when I felt I was losing it. His honesty, while too late, was at least something. Sophia stood to leave, noting how James's eyes widened slightly at seeing her walk independently. You look well, he said. The physical therapy must be working. It is, Sophia confirmed, though it would have worked better years ago without your interference. As she prepared to depart, James asked the question she had anticipated. Can you ever forgive me? Sophia considered carefully before answering. Forgiveness isn't something you're owed, James. It's something I might eventually grant myself the freedom to move forward, without carrying the weight of what you did. She met his gaze one final time. But understanding why you did it doesn't excuse that you did it. Some bridges once burned can never be rebuilt. She left the meeting feeling lighter, not because of any reconciliation with James, but because she had faced him on her own terms, standing on her own strength. The encounter had confirmed what she already knew, that her healing wasn't dependent on his remorse or understanding. 2 weeks later, Sophia attended the premiere of a documentary about medical gaslighting that featured her story alongside those of several other women whose health concerns had been dismissed or manipulated by partners or physicians. The event was held at a historic theater in downtown Los Angeles, its Art Deco architecture a reminder of Hollywood's enduring capacity for both glamour and reinvention. As she walked the red carpet with measured steps, her custom-designed cane now a signature accessory rather than a concession, reporters called out questions about James's upcoming sentencing and Natalie's recent childbirth. Tonight isn't about the past, Sophia responded with gracious firmness. It's about creating a future where stories like mine become increasingly rare, because we've built systems that make such manipulation more difficult. Later, as she stood at the after-party reception, a young actress approached her tentatively. Miss Taylor? I just wanted to say your courage changed things for me. I was in a relationship that was. She hesitated, searching for words. Diminishing me, making me doubt myself. Watching you stand up inspired me to leave before it destroyed my career. Sophia squeezed the young woman's hand, recognizing in her the same determination she had needed to reclaim her own narrative. Our industry tries to convince women that we're replaceable, dispensable once we pass some arbitrary expiration date. The most revolutionary act is to refuse that story. That night, back in her Malibu home, Sophia stood on her deck overlooking the Pacific. The rhythmic sound of waves breaking against the shore provided a soundtrack for reflection as she reviewed the journey of the past 18 months, from acclaimed actress to victim to survivor to advocate, roles more complex and demanding than any she had played on screen. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Just heard from casting. 3 of our actors with disabilities have been confirmed for refraction. We're making history. Sophia smiled, typing back. Not history. Just the future as it should be. She looked up at the stars becoming visible above the ocean, the vastness of possibilities stretching before her. The path forward wasn't perfect or easy, but it was hers to determine. And after everything, that freedom was the sweetest victory of all. Sophia's story reminds us that resilience often grows from our deepest wounds, and that true strength emerges only after we've been broken. As the ocean breeze carried away the last echoes of James's lies, Sophia stood tall, scarred but sovereign, forever changed but finally free. Have you experienced betrayal that ultimately made you stronger? Share in the comments below. What moment in Sophia's confrontation with James resonated with you most? If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Endless Romance for more powerful tales of transformation and redemption. Don't forget to ring that notification bell for our weekly uploads. Your experiences might help others facing similar struggles. Remember, our greatest comebacks often emerge from our most devastating setbacks.